Let's continue our review of HBO's Rome, but before anything else, I want to mention 2 years have not passed since I published the last part. Actually, it's just 2 days later, and I want to say I am proud of myself. Well, it's 2 days at the moment of recording, so by the time I publish it, it might be like 4 or 5 days later. But anyway, it has not been 2 years, and I'm loving this new disciplined version of myself. Let's get back to it. The last time we were looking at Season 1, Episode 4, which is called Stealing from Saturn, and we are 21 minutes into the episode, the scene where Erastes Fulman comes to the party of Varenus and Niobe in honor of them starting their new business venture. And so after Fulman, the second pair of guests are Niobe's sister Lydie and her husband Evander. Now, in retrospect, of course, I know everything that's going to happen, and the shitty part is I can't just experience it as I did the first time so that I can give an unbiased reaction, and I kind of hate that. Of course, now we can clearly see what's happening. We can both see that the sisters are nervous, that Evander is nervous, and the only one who's completely calm and welcoming is Varenus because he's completely clueless as to what these people did. And so, with me knowing what's going to happen, I can really appreciate their subtle acting. The actors are just brilliant. The worst part about it is that when I saw this for the first time, not knowing what was going to happen, which was probably about a decade ago, I most likely did not appreciate the great acting at all because I had no idea whatever the hell was about to happen between these people. As much as I hate to admit it, sometimes while watching stuff, I tend to be rather shallow and I only notice subtle elements if they're not subtle at all, but made to stick out so that I can notice them. And so my reaction to this scene now is not raw, but at the same time, if it was raw, I don't think I would have appreciated it this much. And at the end of the day, I'm not doing these videos as reaction content. I have to admit, I'm kind of addicted to watching reaction videos, but at the same time, I fucking hate those. And I hate myself for watching them. I don't want to record myself just reacting randomly and unpreparedly, if that's a word, to some stuff that I'm just watching. This is like the shallowest idea for content, at least in my opinion. What I'm trying to do here, and what I'm hoping people are listening for, is a level headed analysis of the acting, the filmmaking, and the historical context. I don't want to just, react to this amazing show. I want us to know it in depth and relish in the detailed discussion of it. I hope you guys, whoever's watching my stuff, are with me on this. I think Rome deserves better than just some stupid reaction content. In the next scene, we're at the party at Atia's house that's supposed to be in honor of Caesar's return from Gaul. And I have to say, I think maybe this particular party or some other similar scenes in the previous few episodes were somewhat groundbreaking for me when I watched them for the first time because this 1 decade ago, when I watched the series for the first time, I was like miles behind in my knowledge about ancient Rome. I didn't know almost anything except, the general outlines of the famous wars, a couple of the famous emperors, and Caesar's assassination. I was basically at a high school level. And so, this type of scene in HBO's Rome removed my high school preconception of everything in the ancient Greco-Roman world being white and made of marble and white togas and whatnot. It was because of these scenes that the concept of Rome that I had in my mind burst into colors suddenly. Colorful buildings, both on the outside and the inside, colorful clothes, far more various than just the weird white sheet that is the toga, colorful hair, all kind of weird and beautiful wigs on women, all the statues being painted in lifelike colors, etc. My baby brain at the time was absolutely amazed by this, and at the same time, it made me feel stupid because if you think about it, of course, it makes total and perfect sense that the Roman world would be basked in color, just like the world at any other point in history, really. Living people are not just bleached marble and sterile looks. Life means diversity, it means color, and ever changing perceptions. So I owe much to HBO's Rome for helping me grow intellectually in this regard. And so Servilia comes to the party looking beautiful for Caesar, and Attila welcomes her in. Fake kisses and all, giving us a hint of what's to happen between these two characters. The vicious brawl between them is one of my favorite aspects of this show. I don't know what it is about me. I'm not sure why I have such a strong liking for this, but somehow it's always the evil women characters that fascinate me most. And Atia is, of course, one of the top ranking ones on my list. In this scene, she, of course, applies her favorite tactic of passive aggression. She just does not miss out on the pleasure of reminding Servilia that she's in trouble given that her son turned out to be on the wrong side of the war. She just has to rub salt in Servilia's wound because it gives her pleasure. And my sick brain actually loves that she's such an asshole. And I'd actually never like such a thing if I saw it in real life. In real life, um if I saw people like Atia, I'd wish they were hit by a car or something. But in fiction, I just love this human trash. She absolutely fascinates me, and I cannot get enough of her. And then, of course, Caesar arrives at the party looking like a total and complete king. But of course, he has to emphasize his cockiness by pretending to be humble and not requiring the people bowing to him. He meets Servilia, of course, and we have to get through the awkwardness of several things. First, Calpurnia pretending that it's pleasant for her to see Servilia, given that Servilia was Caesar's lover, and apparently she's glammed up and horny for him again. And the second awkward thing is, of course, Caesar, much like Atia, biting on Servilia's tail for the Brutus thing again. Her son is basically a traitor, and yet here she is, impatient to hop back into Caesar's bed. And, oh, and by the way, there's a third awkward thing to mention. That lady's hair in the background, it looks like it's about to give birth, and I love it. In the next scene, which is a short one, Pompey's bastard son, was it Sextus or was it Quintus? I don't know. He arrives through the city gates under the pretense that he's in a group of people who are working in the business of corpse collecting and bone grinding, which is nice. uh, I do have to admit, I needed a couple of minutes to remember the context of all of this, why the hell he's coming to Rome and whatnot. And so this is related to the beginning of this episode, where Pompey commands him to go to Rome and find the scouts who stole the gold from the treasury at the Temple of Saturn. And ultimately, wasn't it Pulo who actually ended up with the gold when he took it from the running scouts who were dragging the gold in a cart along with Irene tied to it? I'm 90% certain that was it, but it's so annoying that my brain gets muddled from doing this review scene by scene and not episode by episode. Doing all these detailed chunks of the review and in between long periods of time is giving me trouble as to keeping the overall context in my mind. But anyway, we're back at Varenus' party with Varenus and Erastes discussing war, trade, and whatever, and Niobe's sister getting drunk at the sight of her husband playing with the baby, which is actually his. I mean, my heart goes out to her, which goes to show that she's a great actress, really nailing down those facial expressions. Then we're switching back to Attia's party again, where Caesar's trying to seduce the main ogre, or was it the pontifex or something? I can't remember. It's basically for the purpose of buying him off so that later on he can ratify Caesar's occupation of Rome. Meanwhile, Attia is trying to impress Caesar's wife with her children, and so she tells Octavian to say something witty, just like this, randomly and out of nowhere. Your mother asking you to say something clever without any context whatsoever. And even more impressively, Octavian says, I don't have anything witty to say. You know, I just can't make small talk. Which to me is like an idol of mine speaking. I even remember hearing this line for the first time in the show, and it's giving me so much solace because I have this kind of problem when it comes to socializing myself. I just cannot make small talk because I honestly think it's stupid. I can't talk about, the weather or what kind of shit I like to eat. It's like wasting mental energy for nothing. And up until then, I thought that was a problem for me, that it made me the problematic one, and that it was my fault that I was so difficult to communicate with. And when I heard this line, and not just from anyone, but from a depiction of the Emperor Augustus in his youth, and he didn't say it in an embarrassing way or something, he said it like it was a completely okay and legitimate reason for him not wanting to engage in small talk in the first place. And it made me realize then I actually don't have to worry about not being able to communicate about everyday things because doing it is to a large extent stupid, and there's nothing wrong with me to think that way, and that it's actually other people who are stupid for engaging all the time in conversations like this. So I have HBO's Rome to thank for boosting my confidence level on such a large scale, and for even making me kind of an arrogant asshole myself. I'd say, on a healthy level. Because now when people think me weird for not wanting to make small talk, I just think they're stupid in return, instead of blaming myself. Then because Octavian cuts Atia off, she goes on to make Octavia recite some of her poetry. By the way, I love the way she shoves Calpurnia's shoulder and how much Calpurnia hates it because apparently she thinks too highly of herself for people to be behaving this familiarly with her. And I love even more the fact that Atia gives zero fucks about it. And so Octavia goes off to recite one of her emo poems, which I actually really love. It's basically a poem about death and the horrible difficulty of life, and very existential. And of course, the listeners look at her in bewilderment because, in their limited understanding of displaying this kind of artsy darkness, is weird. I I love it. This depiction of young people not being able to fit in a quote unquote proper society because I can relate to it on a very, very deep level. And then we're back at Varenus' party, where Niobe's sister is drunk and starting to behave really inappropriately. And at their attempts to stop her, she blackmails them to leave her alone, lest she tells Varenus the truth about the baby. I mean, dick move, but at the same time, who can blame her? People have emotions and limits. They start fighting in the middle of the courtyard. They knock down the bust of the god Janus, breaking it, which is, as anyone at the time would take it, a very bad omen for the business venture that Varenus wants to start. I do not remember how they resolve this awkward situation at the party without Verena's being told the whole truth. So that's going to be interesting to see later on if they show it at all. Then Caesar finally manages to buy off the chief ogre with 200,000 sesterci. And I love how they're masking the conversation with the pretense that the money is a gift to the ogre's wife as an excuse present from Caesar because he had forgotten about her birthday. That's how you fucking do bribery in public. Not like that stupid show Domino that I started watching a few days ago. People talking about killing and stealing money at a party like they're talking about the weather. Just plain stupid. Oh, okay, so I was right about remembering the cart with the gold that Pool took. Pompey's bastard arrives at Varenus' house in the next scene with his thugs because he thinks Varenus has the gold that the Pompeians were trying to take from the city. Varenus, of course, doesn't have it and has no idea about it, and just as they're about to kill him and his wife, Pulo arrives in quite the comedic fashion, all dressed up expensively, both him and his girl, throwing coins at people and being merry. And of course, he saves the day by beating up Pompey's people. Now, did Pompey's son escape from this? Because I remember him being alive in the next season. And by the way, oh my god, rest in peace, Ray Stevenson. May the boatman take you safely to your destination. He was iconic in this show, and his death really struck me. It was it was really a slap in the face for me when he died a few months ago, because it made me remember to keep making this review, especially now in his honor. And so let's end this part of the review on this note so that we can make a symbol of his ending as well. Ray Stevenson will be alive for as long as people watch Rome and his other works. And let's send him off with one of my most favorite poems in the world. Do not stand by my grave and weep. I am not there. I do not sleep. I am the thousand winds that blow. I am the diamond glints in snow. I am the sunlight on ripened grain. I am the gentle autumn's rain. As you awake with morning's hush, I am the swift, upflinging rush of quiet birds in circling flight. I am the day, transcending light. Do not stand by my grave and cry, I am not there. I did not die.